What's up? Hey, today we're talking beginner running mistakes, things I wish I knew when I first started and then started again and then actually started again. Things that this most recent time that I started have allowed me to stick with it and continue making progress without getting injured, without hating every second of it. Before we get started, I want to say a huge thank you to Built Bar for sponsoring today's video. If you've been keeping up with my run vlogs, you will know that I love their protein bars. They have 18 different flavors. Each bar is coated in real chocolate. Every time I try a new flavor, I don't think it's gonna top the previous one, but I keep being impressed by these flavors. Things I don't even think I'm gonna like, I end up loving. Recently, I have been trying their gels on my longer runs. The peanut butter honey especially is just amazing. Plus they have a bit of caffeine, which in the past has been a little bit dodgy for me on runs, but I find that the amount in these gels is just enough to give me that little boost to keep going through the run without upsetting my stomach. So I highly recommend their products. If you want, I'm gonna put a link in the description box down below to save 20% off your next order. If you're new to Built Bar, I highly recommend ordering a mixed box of flavors. Try them out, see what you like, figure out your favorites. So all that info will be in the description box down below. Otherwise, if you're ready to get started, make sure to shoot me a thumbs up and let's get into it. Mistake number one, avoiding the treadmill. This might be controversial. When I first started running, I heard all sorts of things about the treadmill and I had a bit of a negative connotation because of the years I spent punishing with myself with cardio trying to lose weight, not the treadmill's fault. But the most common argument I hear against the treadmill relates to how it affects your form and perceived effort. In its simplest form, a treadmill is just a belt that rotates around and around backwards relative to the direction you are moving, right? It has to move the opposite direction or else it would just launch you off and forward off of the treadmill. This is all good and well. It's great from a space-saving machine design standpoint. This is what allows treadmills to be compact enough to fit in your own home. However, this backward pulling motion is not what we would naturally experience running outside or on a non-treadmill surface, and it can actually reduce the amount of work that your muscles have to do. To explain why, let's look at the running gait cycle. The cycle starts at initial contact of the foot with the ground and continues until the other foot makes contact with the ground. This cycle can be broken down into stance, float, and swing phases. When one leg is in stance, the other leg is in swing, and float describes the transition between the two where both feet are off the ground. The phase most impacted by treadmill running is the second half of the stance phase, because instead of using your hamstrings and glutes to drive hip extension as your leg moves behind your body, the treadmill is doing the work for you. This can lead to muscle imbalances, which have the potential to alter your running form and or increase risk of injury. If you're having trouble visualizing this, think about the last time that you walked down a really steep hill, like so steep that it felt like the ground was moving out from under you. You probably didn't feel a lot in your back of thigh muscles, like your hamstrings or your glutes, but you probably felt like your front of thigh, those quad muscles were burning up. You might have felt some impact through your knees. A similar thing can happen here. This is the biggest argument against treadmill running. However, the issue of underactive hamstrings and glutes and feeling all of the emphasis on your front of thigh can be mostly solved by adding a little incline to the treadmill. Most recommendations I've seen online recommend anywhere from a 0 to a 3%. Lately, for the past couple of months, I've been experimenting with a 1 and feeling pretty good around there. I have learned to love the treadmill as a training tool. It wasn't always that way, but over my years of starting and restarting and finally starting this time and sticking with it to the point that I make progress, I have learned that consistency is the number one key to making progress with running. Running is such a slow grind. Building your base is such a slow grind, and consistency, anything that allows you to be more consistent, is great. I live in Canada. We experience all 4 seasons. This past week, it has been in the -15 range Celsius. I think that's in the low teens in Fahrenheit. We get snow, ice, rain, sleet, everything you can imagine. During the shorter days of the year, the sun comes up around 8 or 9 a.m., goes down around 4 p.m. So if you are trying to fit in training around a workday schedule, it's not going to happen in the daylight hours, which while I've run in the dark, it is not the safest and it requires a whole lot more gear as compared to if I were running in ideal conditions. The beauty of using the treadmill as a training tool is that it is there, rain or shine, it is always going to replicate to these same conditions. It is one less excuse to not getting your run in. Mistake number 2 is skipping strength training. The benefits of strength training from a running standpoint are reduced risk of injury due to strengthening muscle and connective tissue, running faster by improving muscle activation and power, as well as reducing the effort it takes to run by allowing you to maintain proper form. That said, strength training needs to be specific. It does not make much sense for a distance or trying to be distance runner to be training their 1 rep max or training for pure strength. Instead, it makes more sense to train for a combination of power, being able to rapidly recruit and use your muscles, as well as strength endurance, so being able to repeat the same motion again and again and again while under load. The closer we can make our strength training mimic the movement patterns that occur while running, the better that strength training is going to translate to our running performance. So in planning workouts, we want to pay attention to exercise selection. So how closely do the exercises that we're choosing translate to the running stride? We want to look at exercise tempo. So how quickly we are performing each rep of each exercise, as this is going to affect the types of adaptations that occur. We also want to pay attention to how many reps we're doing, as the more reps you do, the more endurance we will build. One of my favorite exercises lately has been the single leg hinge to drive. I'll also put a modification on screen, but what I love about this exercise is that we're going from stabilization to rapid hip extension with one leg and hip flexion with the other leg, as we would upon making contact on each stride. Because I'm working with more load and this is a less stable exercise, I will typically do this exercise with a steady tempo down, brief pause at the bottom, get that stabilization, and then explosive tempo up. 30-second intervals are about 5 to 8 reps per side. The key to balancing strength training running is to work smarter, not harder, especially as you start increasing your mileage and it becomes more and more important to recover. You want to make sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck from each workout. This is why I love full body training. You hit every muscle group, every workout, which allows you to get by with less strength training sessions per week, leaving more time for recovery and for running. This as compared to the traditional approach of body part split training, where you hit one muscle group per workout, absolutely destroy it, then let it recover till the following week. The drawback of this is that if you're trying to schedule runs or like any other active hobby in between those sessions, if your muscles are still sore, whatever muscle group is sore is not going to pull its weight. And that can result in alterations to your running form, decreased stride efficiency, and ultimately decreased performance. So I love full body training because once you adapt to it, it's going to help you better manage fatigue, reduce soreness, boost recovery, ultimately get fitter faster. All right. I have a ton of free full body workouts on the Team Blaine's channel. I'll put them somewhere down here or up here, wherever I can link them. Or if you want to check out my latest guide, the Full Body Fit 2 guide, these are the exact workouts I follow. I will also put those in the description box down below. And mistake number 3 is tying body fat to performance. When I was brainstorming all the mistakes I've made, I kept coming back to the theme of underfueling, not eating enough for my goals. And at the time, this was intentional because the last time that I restarted running before this time that I restarted running, I was doing it to help support my weight loss journey, which another mistake, but comment down below if you want me to talk about that in a future video. Eventually, I did lose the weight. I actually managed to get pretty lean, similar to where I'm at right now. Visible abs, muscle definition, feeling good, feeling confident, great energy. No reason why I should want or try to lose more weight. However, there was still a part of my brain, a little voice that told me if I could just lose a little bit more, if I could just weigh a little bit less, I could run faster. Part of this was my own issues with body image. Part of this, though, was the fact that every pro runner I saw seemed to have a very low body fat. Quick math says very good runner, want to be good runner, should try to look like very good runner. But this thought process is inherently flawed because correlation does not equal causation. What this means is that just because you can observe a relationship between two variables does not mean that one causes the other. In other words, just because many fast runners have a low body fat does not mean that they are fast because they have that low body fat. If you dig even just a little bit deeper into what goes into becoming an elite athlete, you'll realize that the relationship is probably the other way around. It's all the things that the elite athletes do to stay elite that allows them to maintain a low body fat. It's not the low body fat that made them elite. An extreme example would be when Michael Phelps made headlines with his 12,000 calorie a day diet, which while he later corrected it, he was probably only, I will emphasize exercise only, eating 8,000 to 10,000 calories per day, it was not his low body fat that made him elite. He was an elite athlete who won many, many medals because he trained incredibly hard. And when you train incredibly hard, you burn a lot of calories. You burn so many calories that you probably struggle to eat back those calories between training sessions, hence the low body fat. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and the conclusion I've come to, I mean, honestly makes a lot of sense when you kind of look at it on paper, not in your own head. But the more endurance you build, the easier it becomes to stay lean. So for context, back when I was doing 3 to 4 mile easy runs, now an easy run for me is 7 to 8 miles. It's just an hour of my day. I get just over 10,000 steps, burn about 800 calories. This kind of thing does not fatigue me. It doesn't burn me out. I'm not sore the next day. It's just a thing that I do in my day. But I didn't get here by starving myself or under fueling my training. I focused on performance and gradual progression, which I know seems completely counterintuitive, especially if you are on a weight loss journey and you are trying to include running as part of that, because the advice is always move more, eat less, which can work to a certain degree, but not if you're really trying to push the pace or push your mileage with running. So yes, while many elite runners have a low body fat, are lean, that might be something that you want to achieve for yourself. I think the biggest takeaway from them is that they are incredibly active. These are people who are doing more activity than most of the population. They are not average, they are not normal in any way. And because this level of activity is so ingrained in their everyday life, and they have the endurance base to support doing these higher mileages, they can eat a reasonable amount of food. They're not starving themselves. They may even struggle to keep up with the amount of food that they need to eat to support that level of training, and they can maintain their weight. They can maintain a relatively lean physique without much conscious effort because they're doing so much activity. So if you take nothing more from this, know that you do not have to be lean in order to be a good runner, but you also don't have to be a good runner in order to be lean. If you want to get lean, look for more opportunities in your everyday life to add activity, to be more active until it's so ingrained in your lifestyle that it just becomes second nature. Whereas if you're looking to be a good runner, again, the advice is kind of the same. Look for a way that you can make running so ingrained in your everyday life, following smart programming, that it just becomes second nature. Like whatever you do, focus on gradual progression, focus on gradual change, because that is the change that lasts. That is it for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, definitely shoot me a thumbs up. Maybe let me in the comments down below something you learned from today's video, or if you have been running for a little bit, something that you wish you knew when you first started, a mistake you made, anything like that. Let's help each other out in the comments. I will put the link for 20% off Built Bar in the description box below, as well as the link to my full body fit guides. If you'd like to check those out, add them to your training, do what you want, okay? Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.